Hey, indie filmmakers, I'm Nick Bodmer.
I'm Griffin Hammond, and on this week's episode, we're talking Cyber Week deals and going behind the scenes on my latest video.
Plus, your questions about lens whacking, the new Lumix G9 camera, and whether or not you should build a Hackintosh.
Hello, Nick.
Hello, Griffin. How are you?
Pretty good. Did you buy anything for Black Friday, Cyber Monday?
Maybe. I wasn't going to, but then maybe I did. How about you?
I didn't buy as much this year. Remember last year I actually got the microphones that we used for the podcast?
This was a Black Friday deal.
Yeah.
This one right here.
The blue baby bottle microphone.
That's right.
Yeah, they were like half price. So I just got two of them and then we started doing a podcast.
And we're still doing it. So, high five.
Yeah. Although today I am in Salt Lake City, I am using my Azden SGM 250CX microphone because it's pretty portable.
That's the one you just did that back-to-back blind test video on that ended up being really good.
Yeah, I was super impressed with it. So now I'm kind of realizing it should be my go-to travel mic for its size.
And you put out your yearly Cyber Monday filmmaking deal video, correct?
Yep, that went out 2 days ago, and my goal with that video is always to get it out early in the day, but I don't want to produce it the day before. I kind of do all the research the day before, but I want to make sure that the deals are still active on
so
Cyber Monday.
Get up very early.
Yeah, and some of these deals don't even appear until that morning. So yeah, I got up at 2 a.m. and
brutal.
Showered, and then checked some sites and loaded up all the links that I had looked up and saw what the deals were and updated the script. And then I was shooting probably by about 3 a.m. This was in my
at your
wife's parents' house, yeah, in Illinois. So I'm like the only one down in the kitchen. I find myself trying to be really quiet while I'm setting up, and then I realize like I'm going to be practically yelling when I start making this video.
You know, I had that thought as I was watching the video. I was like, he's being pretty loud, and I bet everyone's sleeping in that house.
Or trying to sleep. They may have been able to hear me. I don't know.
I had family in town for the holiday as well, and you'll be happy to know Monday morning we're all sitting around in the morning drinking our coffee, and I put your video on, and we all watched it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, by the time you were awake in Las Vegas, I probably already had the video published.
Yeah, oh yeah, it was waiting for me. In fact, I swear to God, I think, do you do this? When I wake up in the morning, I kind of like lay there for a minute, and I grab my phone, and I just check like my notifications, and maybe just mess around on the phone for a minute. And I think I may have started playing it laying in bed before I even got out of bed. And I was like, no, I'm going to watch this later.
Well, and
how long was it? Like 8 minutes or something?
It's 10 minutes, yeah.
10 minutes, yeah.
And for our podcast audience who consume this podcast on the audio side of things, I actually published the video as to our podcast feed as well.
You did?
Yeah. I figured it was pretty much an audio production. There wasn't really that much to look at.
Just you talking, right? And then the list is in the show notes.
But I'm sorry that I published something to the podcast feed without you in it.
You mentioned me, though, which always makes me feel good whenever I get a name check in one of your videos. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
So this year, I feel like everything I shared was all stuff that I either already had or didn't need. I don't think I bought anything off the list. In fact, I've bought several of these things recently, it felt like. Like I got the Zhiyun crane. Do you know, are you familiar with this product?
I'm shaking my head. No, I don't know what that is.
It's, you know, we have the glide cams, our gimbals that use weight, but this is one of those handheld electronic ones.
Oh, okay, yep.
And it's made for pretty lightweight cameras. It's like 4 pounds and less, which is good for Panasonic. I think once
It'll
you
work
start
with
adding
the full GH5 and a lens.
Yeah, it does that. Although we're starting to approach the limit, so I think if you get a speed booster and a big Canon lens, you've probably gone overboard.
Okay.
But for a mirrorless camera, it's a small product, but the electronic gimbal works really well, and it's normally $650, and then I noticed on Cyber Monday it was like $500 or something.
So you got one?
No, I already had it. I already had purchased it for $650.
Big spender. So you're feeling pretty dumb right now.
Yeah, and I think it's still $100 off now. So
It's not too late, folks.
yeah,
Not too late.
in fact, if you didn't get a chance to look at it, you could still see all these deals at griffinhammond.com/cyber. And I've
Which sounds
gone through
very
today.
inappropriate, by the way. I'm just going to put it out there.
Does anyone still use that word cyber
Don't know, but I don't like it.
in inappropriate ways? I guess that's kind of why I made my, many of you may have seen my cyber video that I made during the election about Donald Trump saying cyber over and over and over again.
Cyber and cyber warfare. As far as the cyber, I agree.
He kept saying, cyber is very important and we've got to work on cyber. And it just sounded so strange to me. But anyway,
I almost bought that LED light that you put in your deals.
Yeah,
And
that
you
was
convinced me not to.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
Because people complain about my setup. I was like, ooh, I'll get rid of these crappy lights and get the LED light. And you didn't seem to think that would improve my shot. You think it's all poor technique, not an equipment problem.
No, I don't know. I guess I never thought you have poor technique. I guess I don't look at your shot and think that it's poorly lit. I think you have a lot of light in that room. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if more light is going to make it look more
added
exciting.
a painting to my shot. I'm pointing to it now. You can't see it, but there is a painting. My computer is not functional right now, and I didn't want it to be boring over on this side of the screen, so I have put a painting there.
Now I'm going to ask you a question, but I realize I'm afraid to ask you this question because I should have asked you before we started. Which orientation are we shooting you today?
Uh-oh. You're going to have to flip me. Just like normal, every shot.
Like normal where your screen is reversed?
Well, my screen's off, so you can do whatever you want. My camera is to my right.
Okay. But you don't have the background in your
That's what I'm saying. My
today.
computer is non-functional at the moment. That's why there's a painting. It's in front of the screen.
Wonderful.
Just to add a little excitement. You don't know what I'm talking about, but when you see the video, you'll understand.
So all I was going to say is
we're
that
talking about we've gone off the rails.
Many of these Cyber Monday deals have been extended into Cyber Week
Monday
deals.
Sure,
Or
yes.
holiday season deals. So you could actually still go to griffinhammond.com/cyber, and if you click, most of those links are still active. They're still live sales.
What was
a few of
the
them.
best deal?
I do think it
for
may have
this
been
audience?
that LED light that was it was 75% off.
I thought that G85 deal was pretty good too.
Yeah. I think the G85 deal, they've now lost the lens. So it's no
That was the
free
whole
lens was
deal.
coming with. Yeah. The G7, though, the Panasonic G7, that is still on sale. They've extended that to
For like
the Cyber Week deal.
$500.
Yeah.
What a deal. That's great.
So really, in the end, I think the only Cyber Monday sort of deals I ended up getting were I got a Google Home Mini,
Oh, fun.
which has nothing to do with filmmaking, but I thought it might be fun to listen to podcasts in the kitchen with a Google Home device.
Yep.
And I also got a Harmony, a Logitech Harmony remote.
The Harmony Hub.
No, it's not the hub. Although, no, it does come with some hub thing. I don't know what it is.
If it's the one with the hub, then you can tie that into your Google Home Mini and control your AV system with your voice.
Oh, yeah. No, I think I can do that because it also ties to my phone. You can link to everything through the phone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, so that's great. I have one of those to work with my Alexa. And I did buy some Black Friday deals. I got a bunch of more of the switches that plug into an outlet, and you can home automate the switch turning on and off, so I can turn on and off all my Christmas lights with my voice. Those are on sale, so I got that going for me. And Griffin, I bought something else.
What else did you get?
Tell me if you know what this is. I'm going to say a word, and you tell me if you know what it is. I realize I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm not going to say it. Isn't that funny? I always read it. It's the new AMD CPU.
Well, as soon as you say AMD, I just think you're talking about a processor.
Let's look up pronunciation? Hang on. I'm going to tell you. Okay, good. It's what I thought. Ryzen. Have you heard of this?
No. An AMD Ryzen?
AMD Ryzen.
I don't know what that is.
It's a new processor. Okay,
That's what I
so
said.
you know Intel makes CPUs and AMD makes CPUs?
Yeah.
And for a long time, Intel CPUs have been like the best by far, and nobody buys AMD CPUs unless you just want like crappy budget stuff. Well, AMD has come out with this new line of processors that are very interesting for professionals like video editors, who you may know, because they're extremely high core counts as compared to an Intel. So, you know, you just bought your new laptop and I said, hey, get the 15-inch because it has a quad core instead of a dual core, which could translate into as much as twice as fast, right? Because for things like video editing, the more cores, the more power you have to do transcoding. Well, the Ryzen CPU I got is 8 cores. So it is double again what the Intel i7s are. And it was really cheap. It was only $230. I got the Ryzen 1700 CPU, which of course then necessitates that I get a new motherboard and I get new RAM and I got a new video card, and basically I'm building a whole new PC.
Did you get any of that? Was any of the other things on sale?
Yeah, they were on sale. Like not like mind-blowingly good deals, but like the lowest prices in 6 months, basically. If I would, you know, as I do use those price trackers. So I'm thinking, and this is great timing with a question we got. I'm thinking about turning it into a Hackintosh. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah, just running the Mac OS on a PC components.
That's right. So you build your own PC and then install Mac operating system on it, and you can build an extremely powerful Mac for a lot less money than it costs to build. You know, like a Mac Pro is what this thing will be, as powerful as a Mac Pro that costs $3,000 or $5,000, and I will have spent, you know, $1,000 on it.
Yeah.
So Hackintoshes in general, people have been doing it a lot longer with Intel CPUs, and these Ryzen CPUs, they have not been doing it as long with, so it's a little harder. So we'll see how difficult it is to get it actually configured and working properly. But if I get it going, I'm thinking maybe I'll make a video on how to set this up yourself, so people can go out and build their own Mac editing machines for a lot less money. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think that'll make Ryan Helmer happy, who asked
Who's
the question.
Ryan Helmer?
We'll just skip right to his question. He asked if you have thought about building a Hackintosh or a custom PC for editing, and he's also wondering if he can send you specs of the custom PC of his custom PC. I can't tell if he's.
Let me read this. I've lost
I can't tell if he's suggesting. Is he suggesting that you build a computer to his specs, or does he want to share his specs with you for your feedback?
I see. So let's start from the beginning of this question. Have I thought about building a Hackintosh? I have done it before, yes. My current desktop, I did Hackintosh it. I didn't buy the parts just for Hackintosh, so there were some things that didn't work very well, but I did have it working for a while. So yes, I've done it. I'm thinking about doing it again. All my desktops have always been custom built. I've built my own computers as long as I can remember, and I would be happy to look at your specs. I think he's going to send me a part list and say, hey, how does this look? And, you know, we do that a lot on the internet. Oh, you know, if you switch this part out, you know, maybe it's better to spend $100 less on the processor and get more RAM or get a better graphics card or something. So I love doing that. Ryan,
and he
send
can
it my
reach
way.
you. He can reach you at nick@hey.film.
He could, except for I probably won't reply because I'm bad at email. So I suggest tweeting at me at AmpSonic, AMPSON.
Or just CC me on the email, Griffin.
Or CC, and Griffin will take care of it.
And I'll bug him.
It's my email's a mess, guys. You don't want to see my email. I have like 5 email accounts. It just goes by in a blur.
And I guess as long as we're answering his question, we might as well answer the second part of his question, which is, what do you guys think of the Panasonic Lumix G9?
The Lumix G9. I didn't know there was a G9.
Yeah.
I'm guessing
I had a feeling
that's a photography camera and less video.
It is, although it's it has a lot of the same features as the GH5, so you could definitely use it for filmmaking as well. But I think photographers are probably more excited about it. I'm not surprised you didn't hear about it because it didn't like shake up the filmmaking world. But it seems like it's really marketed towards wildlife photographers.
Okay. How's it different than the GH5?
Well, I mean, I think it's also splash proof. I don't know if maybe they made it even better splash proof. But I think the big thing is the megapixels. It can effectively shoot an 80 megapixel photo, which
you
is...
say effectively, which makes me think there's some trickery involved.
Yeah, because I think it's the same size sensor as the GH5, which is a 20 megapixel sensor.
Is it doing that offset thing where it offsets with the image stabilization to get more pixels or something?
You know, I didn't even think about it using the image stabilization, but that's probably right. Because, yeah, I think it just takes a series of photos. And I just kind of assumed if you took enough photos, you had enough data, you could make more pixels. But you're probably right about it moving the sensor around.
I think I've heard of that before. I could be wrong, but I think I've heard of that before, yeah, where they'll move the sensor around using the image stabilization gyros and be able to kind of effectively get more image that way.
Yeah. And I'm sure I'm missing some other key features, but it seems like that was the big one, that wildlife photographers, the one reason they might stay away from a smaller sensor camera is they felt like they weren't getting the large print photos, and now you can.
Hey, can I ask you, since we're talking about computers, a second ago at least, how's the new laptop?
It's working well. In fact, I should tell you about one feature that I used during the shooting of the Cyber Monday video that was really useful.
Feature of the laptop?
Yes.
What? Can I guess?
Yeah, go for it.
Was it your tabs being available on the touch bar?
No, I didn't even think about that. That would have been useful. Actually, it probably wouldn't have been useful because I had too many tabs. I had 27 deals in that video that I was tabbing between.
You know, I shouldn't have guessed that because I think I saw you doing some crazy keystroke to move between tabs. And I was like, what is that keystroke he does?
Yeah, I was doing Control Tab, which in Safari jumps between tabs, which was useful, except that
I didn't know you could do this.
I was doing it sideways.
Yeah, you looked awkward trying to do it.
It was awkward, and occasionally I forgot that I had to hit Control first, like Control Tab. I would accidentally do Tab Control, which is a completely different thing. I mean, that's not a command.
That's not a command. Yeah, I did not know about Control Tab though. I'm really serious. I mean, you've kind of blown my mind here.
Well, I'll tell you the
Control Shift Tab and go backward. Nope.
I'll tell you the actual. I bet it's Control Option Tab.
Nope.
No, it's not. I don't know.
Anyway, I digress. Continue.
The actual feature that I found very useful with the new MacBook, and actually I don't even know if this is the MacBook Pro feature or if it's just the OS feature, if it's a High Sierra feature. They have night shift built in now.
You were running some nice warm lights and you didn't want a blue screen. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, because 2 years ago I had this exact same setup where I was shooting in my in-laws' kitchen. It's a beautiful backdrop. There's a Christmas tree in the background because we put that up right after Thanksgiving. I have those lights all bokeh-ing in the background. Also, just the house looks really nice. But it's very warm lighting, and I had a super blue screen 2 years ago. And so what I actually did 2 years ago is I put a mask around the computer screen, and I color-corrected just that area much warmer so it didn't look crazy blue. The only problem is every once in a while my hand would go in front of the computer and turn a little bit yellow. So this year I corrected that by just going into night shift, which is the point of it is to use it at night. I guess yellower light is better on your eyes.
Less blue, right? It's supposed to not keep you awake or something.
It's a great filmmaking trick because anytime you film a screen, it's going to be probably way bluer than the environment you're shooting in. So it's a nice little hack built into the OS.
Fantastic. Great stuff. Thanks.
I'm trying to think if I did anything else crazy for that shoot. I bounced some light off the ceiling because I wanted to really soften the light. And because I was up at 2 a.m., I felt like I was getting really hard shadows under my eyes. I think it was really dark under my eyes. So I didn't want to make that worse with harsh lighting. So I was bouncing it off the ceiling to keep it pretty soft. And then I also did a really similar thing to what I'm doing now with the Asden mic. I put it on my Pedco Ultra clamp, and I mounted it to like, I don't even know what it's called. I was calling it like a fruit caddy. You know those things in the kitchen that like you put bananas in, like a wire basket.
Oh yeah,
There's one of those,
fruit
like
basket.
Yeah, fruit basket. I don't know, fruit caddy. That's what I would call it if I was selling it. And I just had one of those. It's like a metal thing, and I was just attached to that. Today I'm actually attached to just a wire lamp that's in my hotel room.
Was there fruit in the basket to help hold it down?
Yeah, there was fruit in the basket.
I was thinking there would have to be, otherwise it wouldn't be heavy enough.
And just like my shot today, right now I have the mic blatantly in the shot, and I went ahead and did that for the Cyber Monday video. It was hanging right over my laptop screen, right in front of that beautiful Christmas tree bokeh, but the shot never moves, so I took it out at the end and masked that in.
You used your magic trick that we talked about a few weeks ago.
Yeah. Although, this is the mistake I make every time. I shot the 10 minutes, hit stop, started loading the footage into my computer. It wasn't until I loaded it into my computer that I realized I didn't shoot the backplate. Yeah. And I just hoped that my camera was still in the same position, and it was, exactly. But even if I had bumped it, I probably could have fudged it a little. I could have moved it around.
You fool.
Yeah.
You always make mistakes, and that's okay. We know how to correct. Yeah. Should we answer some questions?
Yeah, let's start with a couple questions that are related to some of the products that were on sale over on Cyber Monday.
Okay.
Because I think I got these questions in reaction to those things. The first one is a tweet from Tulasi Ganesh, who says, "Hey Griffin, have you used the G85 before? Just wondering, will G85 be a better upgrade to my G7? The G7 was on sale for $500. The G85 was on sale. Well, it wasn't on sale. It was $1,000, and it came with a free lens. I actually haven't used either camera, but you've used you are currently shooting with G85, right?
G85 right here. I used the G6 before that, and the G85 was a pretty big upgrade over the G6, but the G6 is a number of years old. My feeling is if you have a G7, the G85 is probably not a big enough upgrade. I don't know this off the top of my head. Maybe you've done some research, but I'm guessing image stabilization is probably the biggest add to the G85. Does the G7 have image stabilization?
It doesn't. So yeah, that's the big feature that I was able to come up with. That the G85 has the in-body image stabilization. The G7 would be limited to just image stabilization with lenses that have it built in.
Sure. So if you're shooting stills in low light and you really need that extra stop of shutter speed, that would be worthwhile, the upgrade. I think if you do a ton of handheld work, or you're using a lot of lenses that are not stabilized, that could be worth the upgrade. But for the most part, I think you could use that G7 for a while. I think it's a pretty good camera.
You're not gonna. I don't think you're gonna notice a difference in the image quality that you're getting. I think that whatever you're shooting now on the G7, except for maybe it's shakier, the project you're shooting, I think will look just as good on the G7 or G85. And then we got a YouTube comment from Filmland Studios saying that he just bought the G7 and was wondering if we know any good lenses for it. It's his first DSLR. He mostly shoots weddings and local commercials, but doesn't know what lenses to get. Is considering the 25mm f1.7.
Is that the Pancake? It's not, right? What's
no,
the
it's
25-1.7? I don't know that one.
I have the 25-1.4, which I think is like a $600 lens. The 25 f1.7 is a relatively inexpensive lens, and I think it might have actually been on sale during Cyber Monday for like $160 or something. I think it's normally around $200 or $250.
It sounds like a good deal.
Yeah, I haven't used it, so I can't speak to its quality, but the price is good, and f1.7 is still really good low light.
I think that's a nice wide-ish lens. I guess it's not that wide. Would you call that more of a normal lens? I don't know. Combine that.
It's definitely
with something...
not wide. Like it's a portrait lens.
Yeah,
it's a good interview lens.
I would combine that with something a little tighter. Like I've got a 45mm prime that I really enjoy. But lately, this 12-35 just does not come off my camera. I really love the flexibility of that one lens. So That's another
Yeah, I
one to
mean,
look at too.
the 12 to 35, I would definitely recommend that as well. It's much more expensive than that 25 millimeter, but it's just a great lens. And actually, for anyone listening right now, the 12 to 35 version 1, the one I have,
And
is
the one I
still
have.
$300 off. I think for all of Cyber Week, so maybe through Friday. So that's $600 right now. And you could spend $200 more and get the current version, but they're practically the same lens.
Yep, I think stick with the old one.
Yeah.
Save
I
the
mean,
money.
for that price difference. But I think you always want to have like a good prime for low light and a zoom lens just to have some more flexibility and you can move a little bit quicker.
Yep.
All right, we got even more questions. Let's answer the rest of them.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Here's a tweet from Mark Henry Cooney that I told him that I would ask you on the podcast because he wanted to know how we met.
It was a fateful night.
I guess
There was a storm brewing.
I guess it's because last week I shared our yearbook photos that we both met in 8th grade at Gregory
And those
Middle
photos
School.
were the year we met. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I told you, what did I say? What did I write in your yearbook? Hope you have a great summer. Hope to see you around.
Something like that.
No, I continue to see you around, don't I?
So I don't remember. I know that the first person. Well, now I'm confused. I don't know who my first friend was in 8th grade. So I had just moved from Georgia to Illinois. And looking back at my old yearbook, I realized that I must have only been talking about Georgia because every single person who wrote in my yearbook was like saying things like, "You talk about Georgia a lot," or "Stop doing that." I clearly missed it. But I can't remember if I met like our friend Adam first or if I met you first. I can't remember.
Do you want to do a quick version of the story of Adam on the airplane with your mother?
Yeah, a very quick version would just be Adam met my mom on the plane before he ever met me.
They just happened to sit next to each other on a plane, and she's like, "Oh, we're moving to this town." He's like, "Oh, I live there." And then
And then later we
friend of
became
mine.
friends, and my mom saw him and was
Yeah.
like, "Hey, I met you on a plane."
But we ended up in the same, it was called what, teams back in middle school, where we kind of had all of our classes together. We kind of were in all the core classes at the same time.
Yeah.
And, we were buddies. That's
Yeah.
all I remember. We
Yeah, I
just
guess
were
I just
friends
met
in
you
8th
in
grade.
class, and then I started sitting with you guys at lunch.
Yeah, and then we hung out, and then we went to high school together and continued to hang out, and
And all of Nick's friends became my friends. I didn't have any of my
he
own.
co-opted my friends. Thief. But that's okay. We like you. So that's
also
the story.
got-
It's not that
Yep,
exciting.
it's
We
not.
were friends in school, and I guess it's cool. We're still friends. I don't think a lot of people have that going for them.
Yeah.
We're actually still friends with a lot of people we were friends with at that time.
Yeah. Those were formative years for me. It's
Yeah,
good that I moved.
absolutely. All right. Twitter question from Nick, not me, a different Nick. Hey, Griff, love your videos, dude. I'm stuck between getting the 12mm 1.4 and the 8-18. What would you suggest?
Well, both great lenses. I'm currently in Salt Lake City about to do a shoot tomorrow, and I only brought 5 lenses with me, and those are 2 of them. I really love the 12mm.
I only brought 5 lenses with me. I'm Griffin Hammond.
Well, I found that I was mostly packing primes because I really wanted good low light performance. And at the end, I thought I need to include some zooms, so I brought the 8-18 because it's pretty flexible for interviews, and I also just love that really wide angle. And
What's the f-stop on that?
it's an f2.8, so right away it's 4 times darker than that 12mm.
Yep.
And then at the 18mm end, it's an f4, so it's 8 times darker at the zoomed in end. So they're both really useful lenses, but my advice for Nick when I tweeted back at him was I kind of feel like the 12mm is an indoor lens because it's great in low light, and I feel like the 8-18 is a great outdoor lens because it's really good for shooting exteriors like
Yep.
buildings, big things, landscapes, and the light performance isn't as good. So it kind of
Because the difference between an 8mm and a 12mm is actually pretty dramatic, wouldn't you say?
Oh, it is, yeah.
I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot, but I mean, that is a dramatic change in field of view. So I think
tend
you're
to
right
feel
on.
like on mirrorless that 14 millimeters is about what your eye is. Like 14 millimeters makes for a really good point of view shot, like a human or gimbal shot. 12 millimeters starts to feel distorted, which I like. I really love the 12 millimeter. And then 8 millimeters is obviously distorted. Like people may not notice the distortion in 12, but 8 is like, whoa, something's weird here.
Yeah.
But it's fun.
So the prime, the 12 millimeter prime for indoor work, and the 8-18 if you're shooting more outdoor daylight things.
Yeah. And I think ultimately he decided to go with the 12 after
Makes sense.
I told him how
But
much
if you're
light
only
performance he'd
packing
get.
5 lenses, you can take them all.
Right, yeah. The other lenses, for those who are curious, I brought the 25 millimeter f1.4. I brought my 42.5 millimeter. That's an f1.2. And then the last lens I added that I wasn't even going to bring, but realized I probably do need it, is the 35 to 100 millimeter,
Ooh.
which is not even a lens I use very often. But I started to think I may need something longer in case I get stuck far away from my subject and want to be able to spy a little bit better.
Be exciting to see what secret project that's for.
Here's a YouTube comment we got from Aero Capture wondering what the best lenses for lens whacking on the GH5 or GH4 are. Do you know what lens whacking is, Nick?
I believe I've seen an old Griffin Hammond video explaining this concept. It's basically where you run the lens not fully connected to the camera and kind of move it around and let in light leaks.
Yeah. You just disconnect it from the camera. You do have to make sure on your camera that you have turned on a feature called shoot without lens. Many cameras have something like this because some cameras just won't even let you record if it thinks the lens is disconnected.
Yeah.
But sometimes you want to disconnect it. And he's noticing, Aero Capture notices that it works well with a Canon lens, or maybe he's talking about on a Canon camera using a 50 millimeter lens. It works well, but he hasn't been able to find a lens pair that works well with the GH5 and GH4. Have you ever done any lens whacking?
I have not. I imagine on some of these Lumix lenses that maybe the aperture doesn't stay open after you disconnect them or something, and you need something with a manual aperture control. I don't know.
I didn't
You
think
tell
about
me.
that. Well, I think what I've noticed, and maybe it's hard to do it on these cameras because they're mirrorless, maybe something about the shape of everything and the distance. What I've noticed works well is when I try to use a non-native lens, like a Canon lens on a Panasonic, it seems to work well. And I think it's because of that flange distance, the flange distance that I always talk about.
Here we go
That,
again, folks.
The flange distance. That Canon lenses are meant to be set farther away from the sensor, so it seems like I have some space to move it around and it works. Whereas maybe those Panasonic lenses just need to be in
gap,
and,
yeah.
and close to the sensor, and when you pull them away, you can't find focus anymore. But
I'm just
almost
nervous
every other
trying to
camera
record
body
without a lens on. I'm afraid I'm going to break my camera.
Yeah, I don't know. It's fun to do, and one trick that I have that I think everyone should try, because even if you can't get focus, you should at least be able to do this with the lens. Take the lens off, but put the lens cap on, and do the lens whacking against nothing, just against a black backdrop. You'll get like purple light leaks coming in, and you can actually bring the light leaks in to post and use a luma keyer and knock out the black, and you can place the light leaks on top of other footage.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, so even if you're not able to get a good shot, you should at least be able to get this effect with any lens.
Interesting. We've got a YouTube comment from Terry Kircher. How do you sync dual source audio when using the new Panasonic XLR adapter on the GH5 and an audio recorder? He's saying he's trying to do it with his Mix Pre 3, and it's not working in Final Cut Pro 10.
So I guess I need your help decoding this question, because I'm a little bit confused what he means by he's recording on the Mix Pre 3, which is a XLR recorder, and he's recording on the XLR adapter on the Panasonic.
That's how I read it. So he is getting, again, dual source audio. So he's using the Panasonic XLR adapter, which, correct me if I'm wrong, records the audio straight to the video file. Already synced.
Yes.
Already synced with the video. And then he also has an audio recorder that he's trying to sync up. So really this is just your standard camera shot with its own audio and a secondary audio recorder. So it should work. Again, my trick is to find a section that I know lines up and maybe has some dramatic sound that makes it easy to sync, and set your in and out points on both files, and then tell it to sync just those, and so it has a lot less to compare, and it should be able to sync those up nicely for you.
Well, and I would double check that you are getting audio on both. Like, for example, if you are using the XLR adapter but you don't have a mic plugged into it, you will get nothing on the camera, and then
and then there's nothing to sync. Yeah, you do have to have audio on all the files you're trying to sync together.
Yeah, but yeah, it should work. I guess I'd have to see more to understand why it's not working for you. Here's a question. This is a similar question that we got from Victoria Bacharach on YouTube. Her question is that, and she was responding to last week, we were talking about syncing and using Pluralize, and she has used the Pluralize software, and she's used a Tascam audio recorder. She films drag pageants and uses Pluralize. She's actually used several versions of Pluralized on Sony Vegas, the editing software, for a few years, and she says it rarely syncs correctly. And her thought is that it's a really loud place. There's a really loud audience at these pageants, and maybe that just makes it hard to sync, which, yeah, that's been my experience with like weddings, that you might have one microphone that's near all the people that are screaming and laughing and clapping, and it's not really picking up like what the DJ's saying, and then another, your DJ source, that audio, it can be hard to sync up. Has that been your experience, Nick?
Yeah, absolutely. Although, for the most part, at weddings and stuff where I use this, there's enough kind of dramatic audio that's on all the tracks, like an organ or some music playing or something, right, that makes it work. But yeah, if you've got just a really loud crowd that's kind of drowning everything else out, it's not going to have a waveform that it can really compare. In which case, you might have to get a little more manual. Now, there is an option in Pluralize, or at least in the older versions. Basically, I think it's called like try harder or try hard to sync. Yeah. And I think it spends more time. I'm not quite sure what that option does, but I have had it help me when it has had trouble syncing. Turning that on takes a little longer, but does sync more. So maybe check that out.
Yeah. And like we said last week, make sure that you are not stopping and starting your recording a lot, because I think the longer you go, the less choices you're asking Pluralize to make, and it may be able to find more to grip onto.
Yeah, and then if you have to do a manual sync, it's a heck of a lot easier.
Right, that's a lot easier, yeah. The only time I've ever needed to Pluralize was because I had like 100 clips, and I was like, why did I shoot it like this? The second part of her question is that the other problem she's had is that a lot of times when she's used the Tascam, she has the DR07 Mark II, which is one of these recorders that doesn't have XLR inputs. It's just the built-in mics.
Okay.
She's always finding that she has to stretch the audio to match her video audio, so like she's getting different timing on each. I guess she's switched to a cheap Olympus recorder, and she isn't having that problem anymore. So what do you think that is causing that?
Yeah, you might want to check your... what I'm blanking. What am I calling it, Griffin?
What are you thinking of? Like the kilohertz?
Yeah. What's that?
What is that called? Why?
My brain has just stopped working.
It's not the bit rate.
Sample rate.
It's the sample rate. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know what I'm thinking. So you might have 44.1 kilohertz on one and 48 kilohertz on the other, which is going to introduce a lot more drift. Drift
that can cause drift?
I believe so. Am I wrong?
No, I don't know. There's a lot of different things that can cause drift, and I've never quite been sure which one I'm doing wrong.
So check that. That can make life a little more difficult. I think
48 kilohertz is standard for video, and that's probably what your project in Sony Vegas is. But I think weren't CD-ROM, like music CDs, always 44.1?
44.1, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So check that. Might make your life a little easier. If you shoot 2 hours without stopping, I mean, I think seeing a second or so of drift is a reasonable expectation by the end, and you might have to tweak no matter what. But if it's more dramatic than that, then I think you've got a problem somewhere.
Yeah. The other thing to check is that it may not be the audio's fault. Sometimes it's the video's fault. Like this, we experienced this when you were shooting video with your iPhone. Mm-hmm. It's a 30p frame rate, not a 2997. And so putting your footage into a 2997 timeline was introducing drift. So it could be if she's starting with a project of a certain frame rate and one of her cameras, or maybe her only camera, but it has some audio on it, is coming in at a different frame rate, it could be the one that's causing the timing to get off.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a good idea. Check that.
Here's a tweet we got from Sierra, who asks, what kind of external hard drive do we use? She's in the market for one to store her Mac's Time Machine backups on, and I guess the reviews aren't helping her enough. So what do you use?
I have a Western Digital external hard drive. The one I use as an actual external is a 3 terabyte, I believe, and it has served me well. They have pretty good hard drives. Of course, we've talked a lot about those 8 terabyte Western Digitals that I rip the hard drives out of. Those are also a good choice. Yeah, I like Western Digitals. Right now, they've got very reliable hard drives, so I think they're a good value.
I've always liked that brand as well, and I do rely heavily on those rugged ones, the orange ones that are. I buy the 2 terabyte ones, and I've gone through a lot of them. Not because they've failed me; they still all work, but I just fill them up and then I move on to another one. But they're good and portable. Although now I have that problem where they're all Thunderbolt 2 adapters, and so none of them
now
can
you're
plug into
USB 3, man.
Yeah. Now I need to get some USB 3 drives. But my latest hard drive that I told her about, and maybe she got in on this deal, was the one that we keep buying a bunch of, that Western Digital that Best Buy keeps putting on sale.
The Easy Store 8 terabyte.
Yeah. I have 2 of those. You have more of that? You have like 4 of them?
I bought 4 of them, yeah. They're in a NAS now, but yeah.
Yeah. And they were on sale again on Cyber Monday for $150. That's half price. They go on sale all the time though, and I think they're still currently on sale for $200, so they're still cheaper than the list price.
And I think on Black Friday they were as low as $129 for a bit.
Oh wow.
Yeah, super cheap. I'm noticing my videos getting more attention again, and a lot of more comments and things like that on how to shuck those drives. So a lot of people out there buying some hard drives.
So you, on Cyber Monday, I was checking in with you to see if there were any deals you'd come across, and you mentioned like, hey, that drive again is on sale. And so rather than asking you for the model name, because I couldn't remember what it was called or like how to find it, I just Googled, I think I Googled like Nick Bodmer Shuck hard drive or something. And it got me right to your video.
Boom. The power of Google. Did you watch the whole video again?
No, I didn't need to. I just needed to like see in the description where you had written out the name of the hard drive or something.
So you bought one?
No, I just wanted to include it on the list so anyone else might be interested. That list again is at griffinhammond.com/cyber.
Ding.
Our final question today is a good one to end with, because after you listen to this, you may be looking for something else to listen to. And it's a comment from Colin Leask, who is wondering what tech podcasts we listen to. He says, your podcast is awesome, just need a few more to fill in the gap between your episodes.
Griffin, I'm interested to hear what are your favorite podcasts?
Yeah, I should go first because I think you have tech podcasts. I don't really listen to tech podcasts. I listen to an NPR podcast that comes out every morning that's about the news. And now I'm forgetting the name of it. It's not Morning Edition. It's Up First. You ever listen to that one?
Nope, never even heard of it. Sounds good though.
It's a really short. Yeah, it's like 10 minutes every morning. Just like, here's the news you should know about, and some commentary. I also like This American Life. I like Reply All, which that's a tech podcast. It's about the internet, but also they do a lot of great investigative reporting stuff. I like Radiolab, and occasionally I've been listening to a politics podcast on Vanity Fair called Inside the Hive.
You sound very boring.
Also, there's a new podcast from my friend Liz Plank called Divided States of Women, which I've enjoyed listening to. especially just to broaden my knowledge of issues outside myself.
I like it.
But you actually listen to tech podcasts.
All right. So if we're just talking tech podcasts, I've got a lot of podcasts I listen to. The Talk Show with John Gruber, the Daring Fireball podcast. It's kind of an Apple-centric podcast. I really like that. Accidental Tech Podcast, also known as ATP, with Marco Arment, Casey Liss, and John Siracusa. I listen to Exponent, which is kind of a tech and business podcast. If you follow the Stratechery blog by Ben Thompson, he has a great podcast that goes along with it. Hello Internet with CGP Grey is good. Upgrade from Relay FM, another great tech podcast. Non-tech podcast that I listen to, Downloadable Content by Penny Arcade, I find funny. A little inappropriate sometimes, maybe. The Incomparable is a good pop culture podcast. Griffin, here's one you'll like. This is a recommendation for you. It's called Song Exploder. Have you heard of this?
Oh, yeah, I have heard of this. Yeah, that did sound really cool to me. I think I've listened to like one of their stories. They played it on a different podcast.
Yeah, so Song Exploder, they take like a song and they have the artist come on and they basically break down how they created the song. And they get, I mean, in general, they have like the master tracks, I guess, because they can like, they'll play just like what, like here's the drums and why we're doing this. And it's really interesting. The most recent one was Lin-Manuel Miranda. Breaking down how he did Almost Like Praying, the song he did with for Puerto Rico for raising funds for them that he turned around really fast. So that was really, and he worked with a ton of artists on that. So that was really interesting. So definitely check that one out. The West Wing Weekly. I love the show The West Wing.
Is it every week they look at one episode of The West Wing and they're like moving through the whole series?
They're rewatching the whole series, and every episode is about the next episode. That's with Joshua Malina, who played Will Bailey on The West Wing.
Yeah.
And Rishi Haraway, I believe, is the other host, and he's the guy who does Song Exploder. So that's enough. That should get you through for a bit.
Hey, wait, when do you listen to all these podcasts?
I don't. I can't listen to them all.
Yeah.
My list of unplayed podcasts right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19, 20. It's like, 40. I have 40 unplayed podcasts. I just can't keep up with them all. So, the most important ones for me, I always listen to The Talk Show. I always listen to ATP. I always listen to West Wing Weekly. I'm behind on Upgrade. I'm behind on Exponent. I'm behind on Hello Internet. I do the best I can. That's all I got.
Well, if you are tired of watching us on YouTube, which is actually where most of our audience is, you can also just listen to this podcast on our preferred player. I think we both listen with Overcast.
I listen with Overcast. Yeah. Made by Marco Arment of the podcast ATP.
Oh.
So,
did he have the podcast first or the app first? I like to imagine that he had a podcast first and was like, I want a better player.
No, he definitely, he did podcasts before. I don't know if ATP was out. I feel like it was before. I think, yes. I think the podcast was out before the app, but I don't know that for sure. It was close. But he's done many podcasts before that, so I had listened to his other podcasts. He made Instapaper, if you've heard of that.
Yeah.
He was also employee number 1 at Tumblr. So he's got some interesting things to say about technology.
Yeah.
He's opinionated, and not everyone agrees with him, and I like that.
Well, now you just gave everyone so many podcasts that they're not even going to listen to us next week because they're not even going to be through that list yet.
In fact, our podcast is on my podcast player as unplayed. I have like 3 episodes of it.
Yeah, I never listened to our podcast.
I listen to parts of it sometimes. I was before. When we first started, I was listening to all of them, and now I just don't have time. So
yeah, I was listening for a while just to like kind of test it. Yeah, but no, I'm getting the full experience right here, living it live with you.
Living it live with Griffin Hammond. That'd be a good podcast name.
All right. That'll be my second podcast, Living It Live.
I think it's time to go.
Okay.
I think it's time to shut this bad boy down.
Yep. It's time
Friends,
for me to
thank
edit
you.
this whole thing and then wake up early and shoot videos.
That's what you do. It's your life. All right, my friend. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, you too. I'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye. This time I'm actually recording my audio in the XLR adapter, so it's all in one.
No syncing required. Right after our episode on syncing on the go, you're not even going to have to do it?